Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we're going to be talking about the narrative that I think could see some of the biggest adoption and growth going into this next bull cycle, and with adoption and growth comes some of the biggest return potentials inside of the market. With the collapse of centralized exchanges, lenders, and now with the government attacking Binance as a whole, I do believe that we're going to see more money coming into decentralized exchanges than ever before. And so for today's video, I'm going to be breaking down 5 of my favorite decentralized exchanges and ones that I think could generate some of the biggest upside potential over the next bull run. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so as we get into this video, I kind of wanted to reiterate my point as to why I believe we're going to see so much money coming into decentralized exchanges as a whole, and it's really centered around with the history that we've had in the last few cycles, and really the trend that we've been seeing even going into the last cycle. A lot of our cycle in DeFi was really generated through decentralized exchanges. Uniswap, SushiSwap, being able to actually swap on different platforms and exchanges, that was a huge upgrade from prior cycles, and that really propelled decentralized adoption as a whole. But the issue that we're seeing here is the government is also kind of going after some of these big players in crypto. In the last cycle, right before the market took off, we saw the government go after BitMEX's CEO Arthur Hayes, and he was the guy who had the hold on the futures market in crypto. That was where all the money was at, was over on BitMEX, and so they went after him right before the market took off. That's not a coincidental thing, it's because they know what they're doing. So they silenced him. BitMEX faded into obscurity once he left as their CEO, and so for the same thing to more or less be happening with Binance, a lot of you guys in the comments yesterday seem to think that it's not going to do anything to Binance, but I disagree. I do think that we're going to see a lot of the money, majority of the money, leave Binance and go into different exchanges. It doesn't have to just be, decentralized exchanges. It could be centralized exchanges, Coinbase, Kraken, or other Chinese ones. It doesn't really matter. The big picture thing I'm trying to point out is the fact that because of our bear market, all of the fear around FTX, all of the fear around Celsius, all of the lenders that went bankrupt, we're going to see everybody going even more so into these decentralized exchanges. And it really pinpoints to what we're seeing here. This was right before the beginning of that bull cycle. So I don't find it coincidental that they're doing the exact same thing here today. So with that being said, which altcoins are we going to be talking about? Let's break them down, explain a little bit as to why I think that they're going to be some of the most profitable investments long term. So first one on today's list is going to be DYDX. DYDX is an Ethereum based decentralized exchange. Now when we're talking about these, the reason why I think they're going to do so well long term is because all the time with exchanges, they've always been the most profitable sort of investments, right? They earn off of all the fees. They're kind of like the banks of crypto. They've been able to generate so much money and value just because of all of the fees that people are trading on their exchange. So when we're talking about these things, we've never really had a way to earn some revenue share with the community, with the people that are actually invested in the projects, but now we do through these decentralized exchanges. So we got to imagine that how profitable Coinbase was, or Kraken was, or Binance was to get in early to some of those. Binance at least had a token, but with a lot of these, they have new sort of ventures to be able to profit share with, or revenue shares, I should say, with their holders. So there's benefits for being a token holder. And if a lot of these get adoption, like I think that they're going to, because of all the fears we've went through, these are going to be some of those that end up seeing a lot of the biggest gains in the market cycle. So looking at this one, all we're really doing right now is flipping our prior highs as new support. It's kind of what we're working on right now. And if we're able to do that, I think that we're setting ourselves up for a move up to this lower high at $7.12. I don't really think that everybody needs to take a ton of profit, but at the same time, one thing to at least keep in mind is February of 2024, we have token unlocks for these. I just want you guys to, I'm not trying to spook you out of your bags or anything, FUD you out. I'm just saying that one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in the cycle was getting FUDded out of my Solana bag because of the fact there was token unlocks, and it meant absolutely nothing, and it was at the beginning of the cycle before Solana absolutely mooned. So just, we're at the beginning of the cycle, you're probably better off holding, even if we run up to this level and see some sort of pullback and maybe come all the way back down and retest where we're at today. I think that the easiest strategy for most people to follow is just the HODL method, because if we're holding the entirety of the bull run, you don't have to worry about anything. You're just holding, right? We're looking till the end of the year 2025 of our cycle top. So we just have to factor that in mind. Keep holding long term because that's where we're going to make the most profit. If we're looking at this, we have a significant amount of upside to go before we're even hitting the prior all-time highs of the last cycle. And you got to expect that these are going to be going into new all-time highs and having brand new bull runs. And they're going to catch people off guard, guys, because, I mean, we've already sat and done all the accumulation. We're leaving the accumulation with this breakout. This is the early signs, pretty much the last true opportunity anybody's really going to have to get into these at a low price, because these could overextend. They could break out higher than the level I'm sharing with you right now because of the fact there could be just so much money coming into these decentralized exchanges as a whole. We're not trying to predict price. We're not trying to necessarily say that we have to take profit at this level. We're looking at these things as a value proposition and how undervalued these things are long term. We're going to see a lot of the emotional gains where people rush in to buy these things when they see all these benefits, when they see all this money coming into the exchanges, the volume and stuff. That's when we want to be taking our profits. But I think that that's a significant time from today. And really, with us leaving this accumulation phase, I think that that is really just the very beginning of that phase starting. Now with DYDX, it's got about 3 times the 24-hour volume as it does the market cap. And I think that that's an ultimate testament to what we're going to see big picture, is the volumes are going to take off, and then we're going to see the prices start to take off as, you know, the price probably matches up a little bit closer with the market cap of these things. Probably goes up way higher because people are emotional and start buying the tokens and start sending them to crazy valuations. We're looking at the valuations of the last cycle being significantly higher. We're already seeing this type of stuff at the very beginning, so you got to imagine that if we get to valuations like this and even into new all-time high valuations, you know, the token values of these things are going to climb like crazy. That's just DYDX. So far, this is the leader on Ethereum, and that's why I made it number 1 on the list. All of these that I'm talking about today, I hold and have made signals for in the group. So if you want to ever get access to what I'm talking about before I talk about them on YouTube, I've been talking about this one on YouTube literally since all the way back over in here too. So it's not like we haven't talked about it. I'm just saying, if you guys do want to get updates on those things, you got to join the Discord server by signing up on my website linked below. Now that's just DYDX. Another one of my favorites is GMX. So far, this is the leader of Arbitrum, and I do think that this is going to be one of the more profitable setups long term. We're seeing a significant amount of money coming into Arbitrum, the DeFi epicenter in my opinion, and that's what we're going to see long term as well. So with that being said, if there's going to be all this money in DeFi focused inside of Arbitrum's network, then the decentralized exchanges built over there are going to do extremely well too. Now, the tokenomics of GMX are what separates it. The ways that you can actually earn yield by participating inside of their liquidity pool are unique, and one of the cool reasons why we're going to see so much upside potential in decentralized exchanges long term. Now with this, all we've really done is completed a 1 wave, and that's what we did in our last cycle. This was 2021. Then we get our bear market. This one held support in June, made a higher high, and then during the FTX collapse right here had this tiny little sell-off. So it's been showing more strength than any of the other markets for the most part. Some of them have been taking off quicker, but it's got a higher market cap, so we got to keep that in mind. Now with this, all we've done from that point is made another subwave, wave 1 and wave 2. So we're working on this big picture wave 3. And I do think that with this wave 3, we could see this thing go all the way up to $400 or $500 in this next run, and potentially even higher than that. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, guys, I'm not trying to predict price. I'm not necessarily trying to do that by any means. All I'm trying to share with you guys is how early we are in the cycle. When we're looking at the subwaves, these are just the very beginning impulses before a much, much, much bigger breakout happens. So we don't really want to try and guess the exact price. We want to be in before that happens. And with where we're at right now, I think we're at the early stages. Stacking 1 waves are my favorite sort of signal to buy because I've made so much money trading those. That's the reason why I ended up buying Solana at the beginning. That was the reason why I ended up buying Phantom at the beginning. That was the reason why I bought Terra Luna at the beginning. And I get that same sort of vibe with GMX. It just has a higher market cap than those did at the time. So that's why I'm watching out for this one. It's the leader on Arbitrum. And we got to remember that when all that money comes into it, this one's going to continue to see even more volume than we have today. Next up is RDPX, and I think that this is a really solid one because of the fact they just had a transition towards their version 2. They've completely changed and reframed the tokenomics of RDPX, and now they have a burn function. So there's going to be different upgrades. You can now participate in some of their liquidity pools that offer some really great returns and some of the highest yields in the market right now, if not the highest. So I would just be looking into that at least at the very minimum. So when we're looking at this one, I really think that this is just one of the more obvious accumulation setups in the Arbitrum market. We saw saw a market bottom in June, and then we came back down and came fairly close to retesting that low, but we've seen just this massive rounded bottom formation all the way through. And to me, that's a big buy signal, especially if we're seeing this happen on this long-term cycle. We saw this big parabolic move, big bear market all the way back down, and so to see this type of price action happening after such a big collapse tells me that it's a very bullish market cycle setting up for a reversal. And we've already broken from descending resistance. Now that we've kind of retested trending support after that breakout, I think that we're going to set ourselves in for a much more significant move to the upside. And this is really the early signal that says there's going to be all this money coming into these decentralized exchanges because of the obvious accumulation patterns that are setting up. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some type of smaller correction. This does look like we could be at some sort of 5-wave impulse. And if that was the case, we'd see some sort of correction, maybe an ABC back down to retest this mid-range like that. But regardless, I think that these things are ultimately destined for this coming breakout into new all-time highs. And that's going to follow with the total market cap. If the total market cap with ETH and all of that starts sending it, they start breaking out, make much more significant breakouts after, they've been in this 500-day plus range. All of these are going to do the same thing. So we don't want to try and predict where they're going to correct down to or where you may or may not have an entry. The entry's been provided throughout this entirety. Now we're to the point of breaking out. You're pretty much either jumping on or getting left behind. And I think that with all of this money at the beginning of the cycle, going to have to go somewhere. I think the early places of where that goes are these decentralized exchanges, because we got to go where the money is made every cycle are always the decentralized exchanges, because that's the way people trade their money and their assets. So I think that these are going to be positioned to see some of the early adoption, big picture, but in the early part of the cycle, these, in my opinion, are going to see some of the more significant increases in price, just because that new money coming in is going to flock to these at the beginning because it needs somewhere to trade on. So be watching out for RDPX, one of the more significant rounded bottom formations in the market. And it's another one that's built on Arbitrum. So we're just seeing a lot of that money kind of coming into the Arbitrum network as a whole, which is setting it up for probably the epicenter of not only DeFi, but these DEXs as a whole. I think that that's where a lot of people are going to be trading these DEXs, is just inside of the Arbitrum network. Optimism is another one, but they're probably going to be bridged amongst both of those at the same time. Now the next one, sorry for blinding everybody, it's just the only place I can pull up the entire chart. MUX protocol is seeing a lot of volume coming into it on Arbitrum. If we come over here and we pull up MUX, we're actually seeing all of this breakout volume coming in here on the Arbitrum chain. $86 million just inside of the 24-hour volume, which is double the market cap. I just think that that's one of the more obvious setups that we have. A lot of these are showing such significant volume increases, and that's why I think that these tokens are undervalued long term. I originally got into this all the way back over in here just because of a friend. He told me to get into it, and I thought it was more or less worthless until it took off in that last cycle. Even though it's had one of the gnarlier bear markets coming all the way back down to basically the beginning of its bull market, so far we've seen sort of the money coming into Arbitrum, and some of these different DEXs have started to pop off just because of that money that's sitting in Arbitrum, and this happens to be one of those. We've seen it uptrending even though the entire market has done its own thing. A lot of these early beginning markets that are starting to see upside and starting to see adoption, they've been uptrending the entire time with Bitcoin, and I think that this one's getting ready for a much bigger move to the upside as well. So with this, having twice the daily volume as the market cap, I think the big picture, these are way undervalued, especially this one. This one's one of my favorites just because I've been holding it for a long time. I haven't bought any more of it. I'm just kind of sticking with the same position I've been at forever. But I do think that this one's going to be getting ready to the point where it kind of separates itself from the rest of the pack. Whichever DEXs are going to be the ones that see the most adoption are going to start distancing themselves right about now, and have already been distancing themselves so far. The ones I've been sharing with you have kind of been some of those early leaders, and the ones that I've personally invested in. There's been other ones, but like I said, I'm not personally invested into them most likely, which is why I'm not covering them in today's video. With this one, once we kind of get above this descending resistance, that's where I think the bigger move is going to come in. However that comes, whether it's this next leg up here, that would be the most ideal scenario, where I think we would make a leg all the way back up potentially to the top of this wave 3 and the bottom of the beginning lower high before this much bigger correction set in our bear market. That was during the Terra Luna collapse. That was like 35, 37 bucks approximately. So already the upside potential with this is pretty significant. You know, that'd be 2.5x. You don't find that on a lot of different altcoins. And so for me, I'm holding this long term. You know, we're talking all the way to the new cycle because I do think that these are going to be worth such significant valuations that'll catch people off guard. So I'm not really trying to play the short-term momentum so much. So far, the short-term momentum is really pointing towards that there's a lot of buy support in these markets, kind of unseen compared to the rest of the markets as well. So be watching out for Mux Protocol. Now, the last one on today's video is going to be Lyra. Lyra is one of the only options exchanges that we're going to be talking about. Now, I don't know if the other ones have options as an option on their exchange, but I do know that this one is kind of the focal point of options. And what we have seen is this one so far leading all the volume in that market, but there isn't a lot of value in that market, which is kind of funny to think about. If we come down here and look at volumes and we come down to the options market, this is kind of what I'm talking about. So we're going to look at the cumulative volume, which is just showing the big picture, the total volume, which ones have the majority. And so far, Lyra is leading the way. We're seeing Avo kind of starting to pick up, but Lyra is seeing a significant increase in volume coming in from the Arbitrum network as well. Now with Arbitrum and Optimism really, because that's where it's bridged, is amongst the both of them, but I think that both of these are going to see such significant adoption big picture that this one's going to continue to kind of see the same sort of trend that it's been on. But when we're looking at this one, I think that this one's setting up in a big way because there's really not a ton of total volume inside of the options network. I mean, if we're looking at the total volume 24 hours, that's only $10.5 million. That's not very much money inside of all of these different option markets, and that will probably end up changing big picture. A lot of these haven't even cracked $1 billion. Like so far, Lyra is the only one to crack over $1 billion total cumulative volume. All of these other ones haven't even done that. So when we're talking big picture, how undervalued these things are, there's a significant amount of money inside of the option market, big picture. Not just talking about crypto, which in crypto there's nothing in crypto, as you can tell. But if talking like about the stock market and stuff, there is tons and tons of money in that market. And I think that that is something that we're going to have to expect to change. So wherever becomes the focal point of DeFi is going to be where this money gets the most adoption, like all of these networks. So whatever, it could be any of these. Some of these could far surpass Lyra, and Lyra might be a scam coin. But for me, I like Lyra, and so far we're seeing it break out in a pretty decent sized way. Once again, one of the reasons I like this is because of the stacking one waves. It held support in the June lows. They made a higher high from there. And then from here, we got another one wave impulse. Even though this thing corrected all the way back down, it's still the exact same sort of setup. We're seeing stacking one waves. And I do believe the big picture, let me get to a bigger time frame, big picture, as this new volume's coming in, as the price is starting to break out, once we clear above these highs, guys, it's pretty much just game over. Because these things are just going to start really going up like crazy. And this one has a fairly small amount of market cap, and all of these are fairly close in market cap. I mean, Lyra has about a $50 million total market cap. Says 72 million on Optimism, but I think it'll give you different results depending on the chain. I don't know the 100%, but regardless, fairly small market cap for an options exchange, something that could see a lot of value coming into it long term. And then looking at Mux, it's about $44 million total market cap, so pretty small market cap as well. RDPX is about 50, 55, something like that. GMX is higher, sitting at like 550. So that one would be a little bit more overvalued, and this one's the highest at like 600 plus million. So that's how these things are valued. But I still think long term, guys, the upside potential in every single one of these are very, very significant, and we're going to see way bigger returns long term when the real bulk of the bull market sets in. Right now, we're still way undervalued. These things are all way undervalued. The majority of them have sort of profit sharing, whether you're providing in the liquidity pools or whether you're staking, doing different things like that. A lot of these have different burn functions. A lot of them are positioned inside of niches. Really, all of them are positioned inside of niches that I think are going to provide the biggest gains, big picture. And especially with Lyra, you know, being at kind of the leader of the options market and there being almost no money in the crypto options market, I think that that could be the biggest buy opportunity that we end up seeing in crypto because of the amount of money that just starts flowing into it long term. These are just narratives to be aware of. The way we make the most money inside of the crypto markets and inside the bull runs is positioning ourselves early to narratives and capitalizing on those narratives as they happen. The only way to capitalize on them is to position yourself early and hold the length of the cycle, and that's what we're doing. We're starting to see these markets take off. We're starting to see new money coming into crypto. We're seeing which narratives are starting to show the most adoption early on, and right now I think that there isn't a better option in DeFi than inside of Arbitrum. And with Arbitrum, there's a few other opportunities. Optimism is a good one. ETH is going to keep doing its thing, but I think big picture, all of these decentralized exchanges that are built on these networks are going to see such significant adoption just because of the fact there's going to be a lot of money flowing into the markets looking to trade, and these are the epicenters of where they're going to be doing it. So look them up. Be aware, do your own research, and with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, see how I'm investing, if you guys wanted to ever see any of these picks, because I've talked about every single one of these altcoins, and every one of these have been provided for a signal inside of my group at some time in history. So if you guys do want to be able to see real time when I'm taking these trades, at what prices, when I'm scaling out, at what time frames, and also if I'm doing anything with the profits, if I'm moving them into a different market, whether that's moving them into the commodities markets like uranium, there's so many different opportunities, and it's going to be lifetime access. So as long as you're inside of the group, you're always going to be able to have access to it. You're going to be able to see what I'm investing in. Even if I take profits in crypto and move into something else, you'll always know what I'm investing in long term by being in my Discord. So if you want to join, you can join on my website. Links in the description. With that being said, thank you so much for the support. Thank you guys so much for checking out the videos. I provided quite a few different altcoins that I think are going to do very well, and with us now kind of starting that early breakout period, I think that they're going to start taking off in a much bigger way very soon. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.